All right, so in this video, I'm going to share with you how to write an ebook outline, even if you have no idea what the topic is all about. So I'm going to share with you how to do it really quickly, do some basic research, and get an outline in and out and done pretty fast. Hey, I'm Sasha, and thanks for joining me here on Backstage Income, where I share with you how to build and grow a profitable business. Today's episode, we're going to look at planning and outlining your ebook, even if you have no idea what the topic is all about. But if you do have ideas of what your topic is about, and you have some expertise, knowledge, and insights, that's going to help you quite a lot. I'm going to give you an example today on a topic I have no idea and no clue about. We're going to take a look at beekeeping. And if we do an outline here when it comes to beekeeping, I'll share with you some thoughts. And this is the way I like to go about writing an ebook if I have no idea to get started. But ultimately, you're going to go ahead and when we do this, you're going to take a look at your piece of paper. You're going to look at a couple of main questions. How, why, what, when, and then you start adding things into this. So it's going to be like, how long? Why do this? So you transform it kind of into questions. And this really is great for how-to books and books where there's a system or a procedure. So basically you're asking the question, different questions: how, why, what, when, who, and there can be all kinds of other questions that you can start things with: if this, if that, then, or the next steps, and so on. So that's how you're going to go about approaching this kind of concept. Now, you could start it out with something like Beekeeping Guide for Beginners if you're trying to start a beekeeping book, or you're writing a book about beekeeping. And you can see here, they'll give you some ideas about some chapters. So you want to keep bees, right? Honeybee 101, basics. You know, what are the things that you need to get started? A home for your bees, choosing a hive, planning your colony, the first year of your new colony, bringing home the bees, bee inspector, the beekeeping year, all about honey, keeping all your bees healthy and productive, and the future of your bees. So this could be kind of like a basic outline for the book that you're starting. And you could go ahead and look up a handful of different books. You know, if you're just getting started, you know, okay, so here's another one, Beekeeping for Dummies. And again, you're scrolling through this book, you're looking at it. Oh, wow, look at all these different chapters. Starting your adventure, taking flight to bees. So there's a lot of things. Time for a peak, different season, different activities, common problems, solutions. So you can see, you know, this gives you a starting point of what we're ultimately trying to do. So let's go back on paper here and just kind of get started. And I'll reference back to some of these things. So ultimately, when you're first starting out your main book, it's going to be, in our case, let's say, beekeeping. And then what you do is you start having some of these big picture concepts. So one of the big picture concepts is kind of like, you know, starting out. So this is, you know, when you're starting, this is kind of the main basic thing. Okay, the next thing might be, okay, what are the things that you'll need? You'll go 1, 2, 3. Okay, and all of these are going to stem in this way. So as you're planning out your book, you're going to have, you know, multiple sections. So these will be your big sections. You might have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then what you could do is make these your chapters, okay? Now, you could also do it a different way, that each one of these are chapters and these are your paragraphs. But what you're ultimately doing is digging kind of deeper, right? So starting out, if you're brand new, you might say, hey, why am I getting into beekeeping? What are some of the equipment I need? How do I get started, or where do I purchase the equipment? So this could be kind of a where, okay? What are the things I need to know ahead of time, okay? Now, after that, well, you get more questions, okay? How do I buy good equipment, right? How do I get a good deal? What am I looking for? You know, what are the must needs? So all of a sudden now you got, in your starting chapter, you're talking about in your equipment section, you have, okay, how do I get good equipment? How do I get a good deal? What am I looking for? What are the flaws of bad equipment? And so on and so forth. Then you get into the next part. Okay, well, how do I select a hive, right? I guess there's different types of hives. Not that I personally know, but there's different types of hives. And then again, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you start the same procedure. And then you go for, let's say, managing, okay? Manage or health, keeping your hive healthy. And again, you start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you break those things down. So you continue this process of, going through, so FAQs, so common problems, 2, 3, and then you might look at, let's see, what else do we have? Getting the honey, right? So how do you harvest? So again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're going in and, okay, how gathering the honey. What are the things to know? What's the process? Okay. And things to be aware of, common problems with getting the honey. The taste. How do you store it? What equipment do you need? Right? And this is just stuff I'm making up on the fly. I'm not even looking those things up on the page. So what I did was I looked up these from the initial book, and now all of a sudden you start stemming further and further. And that's how you ultimately plan out a book, is just because you have these questions, I'm thinking in terms of questions, okay? And that's how you go ahead and create a book outline. Who do I contact to find a hive, right? And you could go ahead and get as detailed as you want on these, because when you have an initial chapter, right, you're doing this plan, and ours is on bees and hives, okay? So when you have this initial big plan, you could do it a little different design like this, right? So you have your basic one where, okay, I'm starting out, so this is your big section, or it could be a chapter, and here is, you're starting out with the section on equipment that I need as an owner. So here is my chapter 1 on equipment, and now I go into, this is my paragraphs or sections. So in that, I have these sub things of what equipment do I need? How much should I expect to pay? All right. Number 3 might be, where do I get this stuff? Are there great websites? Are there community areas? Are there shows? How do I build a connection? How do I get a good deal on these things? And some of these things you might, scratch off, but all of a sudden you got kind of, in each one you might have, what equipment do I need? Well, if you have 4 types of equipment that you need, well, you got about 4 or 5 different paragraphs now. And how much do you expect to pay? Well, it depends on the low end, mid-range, or do you want high-end equipment, right? So you got 3 or 4 paragraphs here, 3 or 4 paragraphs here. Where do you get it? One might be about websites, one might be about trade shows, one might be about local other bee harvesters or people that work with bees. So now you got 3 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs. You got already 3, 6, 9 paragraphs there, and that's just this first section. And that's how you ultimately create a really good plan very quickly, initially, just to get you started. Now, you could get in more and more detail into this, but that's how you kind of do a quick fast track to planning an ebook that even if you have no idea what the topics are all about. And it starts with those words of, hey, how, why, when, where, who, how much, if this, then that. All these kinds of things start giving you ideas in your mind and getting you to that next step of, hey, now I have my basic plan and outline. And then now you just answer those questions in paragraph form. So if you go ahead and check this out, well, what equipment do I need? Well, now you go ahead and answer that in a few paragraphs. There's different types of equipment. There's equipment for people who live in the north and the south, different types of bees, so you might need different equipment for that. How much do you expect to pay? Well, if you buy it at a trade show, it's going to cost you this much. If you buy it from a local bee dealer, then it's going to cost you a little bit more or less. So for everybody, you're going to create a whole new book just by thinking out your questions getting them and creating your chapters. And now you have kind of a book that's how-to book, a good book that's a good starting point for your plan. So anyways, hopefully this gave you some ideas and things to think about as you plan and start writing your next book. Hey, so that pretty much wraps up this video, and I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this community and for watching this video. Now, if you're serious and interested about getting some other great freebies, PDFs, cheat sheets, and a lot of great free stuff that I offer, go to our website at backstageincome.com. That's where you could download a lot of great free stuff, as well as check out some of the premium courses and books we have available on marketing, building a blog business from scratch, and YouTube. Now, if you just want to hang out on YouTube, that's perfectly okay, but be sure to subscribe so that way you get notified when we release other great free training, or you could get some of those freebies by just clicking the link right over here. Anyways, thank you so much. Remember, do what you love, contribute to other people, but most importantly, live life abundantly. I'll see you next time.